WhatCulture Gaming Podcast. My name is Rachel Howie. Today I'm joined by Rich Hudson.
Hello.
And Zoe Miss Kelly.
Hiya.
I realise I've never said your surname out loud before.
You did it.
I hope I pronounced
I got tense for a minute. I was like, she's doing the full name.
Zoe is joining us today because we are going to talk about Pokemon. New Pokemon Sword and Shield came out 1 week ago on Friday. Wow, I did that in a weird way, didn't I?
It's 2 weeks ago.
It's been out about a week. It's been out over a week now. How much have you guys been playing it?
I am 3 gyms in.
Okay.
I've put about 10 hours into it so far. So I've not been like mainlining it, but I've not been fanning around doing everything else. I've been I've been half and halving it basically.
Yeah, have you been catching everything?
Yes, I've been going.
Yeah.
I'm going through trying to catch most things. If I can be,
Catch
if I see a route to the gym and I'm just going to mainline the gym, I'll just go straight to the gym. But if I come across something I've not seen before, I'll give it a go to catch it. Yeah.
I've been kind of doing a little bit more than you. I lost track. I lost count. I think I've done 6. I've just done the ice gym.
It gets really like there's 2 where it's basically back to back, and you're like, wait, how many badges do I
I
have?
think I've just done the ice one, which I think was 6, but it might have been 5. I might have lost count. But Zoe, I know for a fact, has played even more.
I'm hanging out at the Elite Four. I literally, like, within days of getting the game, because apparently I cannot be controlled. I got to the Elite Four, realized it was like 3 days after the game came out, and I was like, I'm gonna go and play Death Stranding for a short while, just to extend how long.
Stretch out that 45-pound experience, right? Yeah. So I feel like the 3 of us have played a decent amount of Pokemon. Do you have a favorite Pokemon so far from the new lot? Because there was about 100 new Pokemon, I'm going to say. It was about 70 or so. What are you thinking so far?
Gonna be my boy Yamper.
Oh, Yamper is
And
brilliant.
His evolution, which I can't remember what he's called. Boltoned, mainly because I called my Yamper Cheddar.
Nice.
Because he's not a common bitch. And he has been a very good boy up to this point. It's okay, I can say bitch, it's fine.
Sure.
Yeah, he's been great. I do like having a good old electric type in my party. I did get a Pikachu, but my Yamper was already a bit stronger, so I figured I'd stick with my Yamper. Now he's a Bolton, and he's a very, very good boy.
I'm going to give a big shout out to Silly Cobra and Sandaconda because I flippin' love snake Pokemon. We've got like 6 of them now. And I was very, very happy to find Silly Cobra in the desert and find out that he has a Gigantamax form, more on that later, that looks like a big old like spinning top snake thing. Wow, I got really passionate about snake there. Yourself?
Silly Cobra brought you to that. Mine is probably a really weird Pokemon that might be quite controversial. It's Berserker. It's the new evolution of Meowth. Literally the moment it was like, you can get this tiny Viking cat, and I was like, well, he's mine forever now, I suppose.
Yeah, so of course Berserker is like not quite Galarian form, it's the Galarian evolution. What did you think when you first saw Galarian Meowth?
I laughed. I just laughed.
The Galarian evolutions are dumb, but there's something about it
Yeah.
that's kind of charming because it makes each different sort of game and location region actually feel like a different place instead of like, here's the next one.
Yeah, true. So something that did come sort of new with Sun and Moon, which was the last Pokemon games on the 3DS, was Alolan farms, and now on the Switch with Sword and Shield,
Well.
we have Galarian farms. I don't know how to feel, because on one hand, I do like that Meowth now has like 5 different faces, but then on the other hand, I'm like, where is Raichu's Galarian farm? I mean, he did get an Alolan farm, so you know, we'll take that.
It threw me a bit when I first came across somebody using a Zigzagoon. And because Gen 3 was my last proper mainline Pokemon game. It's been a long... I've played a couple of the bits in between. Like, I loved Let's Go last year. Last year? Yes.
Yes.
And so, you know,
November.
this was like, okay, here's the Gen 3 stuff. Here's the stuff you remember, the Electrike and Zigzagoon and stuff like that. And it's like, cool. And this guy's like, I'm sending out a Zigzagoon. And he turns up black and white straight out of a Kiss concert. And it threw me so much.
You're like, who is
Because I
this
wasn't
man?
expecting... I was like, I'm looking forward to seeing my little brown fuzzy boy. And whoa. That was interesting.
Yeah, Galarian forms are cool. I do like the sort of angle they've tried with Zigzagoon. He's got another evolution now, which just like you were saying, looks like Gene Simmons, basically, which I do like. Team Yell, of course. We're going to get to all the new features. I just want to summarize. Like, what do you think about Sword and Shield as a game so far? Because it's the first proper like new Pokemon we've had on the Switch. You can't really count Let's Go because it was just remaking Red and Blue, and Yellow. But I personally have chosen to call this maybe the best Pokemon game ever, and I realize that's high praise because it's very, very close between that and Heart Gold and Soul Silver. Rich mentioned you haven't played since Gen 3. Have you played most of the Pokemon
Played
games?
every
Same. So what do you think? Am I spitting lyrics here, or am I
I think
saying
it's
the truth?
the last time I'd seen something like this, it was actually, I don't know if you remember the really old games for the GameCube. They were like Shadow of the Colosseum.
Oh, Pokemon Colosseum.
Yeah, Pokemon
I
Colosseum.
didn't have
the old-
Colosseum. I had Stadium.
Yeah, that kind of like, I like when Pokemon isn't just the exact same game again. I know a lot of people have had a lot of complaints about that, and I do think a lot are valid, but at the same time, I think if Pokemon just continues to be the same game for like 20 games, it's gonna get old eventually. So I like all the new stuff because it actually feels like they looked at it and went, hey, what if we did Pokemon, but like we didn't just throw out the same Pokemon again?
I think that was something that was concerning me because at first, when they first announced Sword and Shield, I was mega on board with all of it. And then as time went on, I kind of lost interest. But I think that's down from hearing all of the residual Poke fans getting very, very annoyed about the lack of the national decks and all that sort of thing. And there was obviously that brought upon the debate that is like, are Pokemon fans horrendously entitled to their games? And I'm not gonna lie, that kind of put me off thinking like when they're saying, oh, it's gonna be terrible. Look at how they've reused the animations and all this sort of thing. And I was getting less and less keen. And then eventually it got to the point when I was on Amazon and I thought, do you know what? Never mind. I'll pre-order it, whatever. And I'm really happy that I did. And I think that negative push that came from people saying, oh, it's different. Oh, why is it different?
Yeah.
Dexit and all that sort of thing. Like, the fact that it is different means it is a brand new experience for me. Because I think that's one of the things that always stopped me from playing the newer Pokemons. Because I had a DS because Gen 3 was on the Game Boy Advance. I had a DS and I could have played all the games they released for the DS, but I didn't. Because I felt that I would kind of get bored of them. Like, whenever I try and go back to stuff prior to Ruby, I don't find it as enticing to play through because of it, not because it's old and because it's not as graphically good. It's just it's the same thing and it's not as interesting. That's why I loved Let's Go so much, because it changed so much and made it more interesting.
That is the thing, though. So just fandoms in general, like, we fear change. We also embrace change. Change is exciting, but we also fear change. So, for example, with Let's Go, a lot of the people were missing, the conventional catching mechanics and battling mechanics was still the same, but in particular, wild Pokemon. So just focusing on the new things of Sword and Shield, they did take a couple of the good things from Let's Go. I love Pokemon appearing in the overworld and like just seeing it and going, oh, what's that? And like making a bolt for it. I love that. So I'm really glad they kept that. Kind of gutted that shinies don't work in the same way. Like, you can't tell if a Pokemon's a shiny until you walk into it. But as far as new features go, like the one that sort of blew me away was, of course, am I right? The wild area.
Yeah.
My God.
Such a good idea.
Have you played much online, guys?
No, I haven't yet.
No? Oh, right. So I've played a little bit online. It's actually quite difficult to set up. It's not quite there yet. They have like a stamp system. You can see what your friends are doing. If your friend opens like an open trade, you can kind of go, I will trade with you.
Even when we were sat next to each other on a train, it took ages for us to trade. It was a bit strange.
Yeah, it has a great idea in that there are little spots around the wild area that you can sort of convene with 3 other friends online, and you can all take on a big old Gigantamax Pokemon together, which I think is really, really cool. Again, online functionality could be better, but that is something that is why I'm really, really hopeful for this game and for future Pokemon games, because can you imagine a Pokemon MMO?
It'd be amazing.
After playing this, I can.
That's the one thing, like, I can understand, because a lot of people are like, oh, well, I was hoping for sort of a Pokemon Breath of the Wild, and it's like, so was I. But at the same time, I think this is the right step towards that sort of MMO, like, actually exploring an area sort of thing and feeling like you're in a game instead of like, oh, maybe a random Pokemon will come out of nowhere. Wow.
Correct me if I'm wrong. I remember when they were talking about Let's Go, and they were saying there is another Pokemon game in development.
Yep.
But then that Pokemon game still wasn't Sword and Shield?
Or I thought it was Sword and Shield.
I don't know. Maybe it is just me. Maybe that back then there were talking about Sword and Shield. But I don't know whether there was another, like a third Pokemon game. So you had your Let's Go remake. You had your new mainline Gen 9 game.
There was that mobile one, that Pokemon Masters on the mobile.
Pokemon Sleep. I thought there was something else in the pipeline, and I think that idea of a Breath of the Wild, like a really grounded, very realistic, almost like, when you went to go see Detective Pikachu and you're seeing the world and thinking, God, I'd love to walk around this like in a game. Like, Sword and Shield gives you that kind of feeling, but not on the same level. If that kind of thing was a thing as well, I'd be buying into that
Yeah,
very quickly.
totally agree. Another change that I thought was very, very good with Sword and Shield is they have brought back like proper gym battles. So Sun and Moon obviously just tried something different, and that was fine. But I am happy that gym battles are back, and they're bigger than ever. And oh my god, the first time you guys walked into a gym, describe that feeling.
It was the music in the fight when it started. I was like, let's go. Oh my God. I'm
so
the
epic.
most ready.
Yeah. So I really, really, really like the gym challenges. Now you've only done 3 of them, so we'll not spoil them for him. But let's just say the ice gym can get in the flipping bin, by the way.
I remember
You're
the
not even
ice.
at the worst one yet.
Oh
They get
Oh
wild.
god, the ice gym in Ruby, I remember being a bit of a pain because it was like a puzzle floor to walk.
It's like the slippy
You had
kind
to
of
walk along the thing, make sure everything cracked before you could move it to the next space and stuff. It's like, okay, ice gyms are always hard, but because obviously, like I said, I'd never done the sort of. I knew that obviously a gym has its own kind of puzzly, gimmicky kind of thing, but like nothing on the scale of this.
Yeah. Because
Like,
I mean, this has always been the case ever since like Red and Blue. I mean, for example, with Koga's gym with the invisible walls, with Lieutenant Surge's gym with the check all of the bins to find a switch. Oh my god, that one can get in the literal bin. But yeah, no, gym challenges are back, and it feels like the same. It feels like the sort of core Pokemon, but also with that little bit extra sort of switch functionality, and we'll leave it at that.
Yeah, but it's interesting because it feels like the whole gimmicky, like almost game show style things actually make sense, since when you do battle them, you are in a stadium in front of like thousands of people, which I just think is really cool.
Yeah, the sense of scale is really unlike any other, and I'm really just like so here for it. It's so good.
It's the bit at the beginning where you're like, oh, a professor's about to rock up, and suddenly you're like in a football stadium with 1 million cheering fans, and you're like, Pokemon?
Hello.
Let's go.
Oh yeah, Rose. I know you finished it, so I'm not looking at you. I don't trust Rose. I don't trust him. I think he's
I
untrustworthy.
feel like there is something. I don't know. I think somebody made a really good comparison.
I
to
said
somebody
he
like,
was like the guy in the Hunger Games.
Yes.
Yeah.
Either that or some. Or I think it was you said about him, or maybe I'm making this up, but somebody mentioned like Andrew Ryan style, like BioShock vibes
We're gonna
from
end up
Rose
killing him, really? Well,
with a
okay
golf
with
club.
that.
Yes, Pokemon.
He is the final boss.
But as far as characters go, if you really stop and think about it, how good are these characters? How much do you love/hate these new characters?
Bede.
God bless him.
Oh my god.
Who is not an old woman, by the way.
It's a dude.
This whole time I thought
That
it was.
threw me when the pronouns came out, and it was like, oh, I thought either it was a young girl who'd gone for the I'm gonna look like an old lady aesthetic, or it literally is an old woman. I'm not sure, but like I've only reached a point where I think I said this to you the other day, Zoe. Like there's a certain event that happens in that narrative arc with Bede that has come a lot sooner than I thought it would.
Well, I mean, do we make this a spoiler cast? No, let's not, because it is very good.
There's a point, again, like I said, I'm only 3 gyms in, but there's a point when this thing happened to Bede, and I thought this would happen like gym number 6.
Yeah.
Like just before you finish off the main, gym challenge and stuff like that. But I'm intrigued as to where this character's going to go. But every time he turns up, it is like, it's like seeing.
You hate him though.
It's
He
like
is
seeing.
Gary.
It's like seeing Professor Umbridge in Potter, and it's like, I hate you so much.
He is Gary, though. My only quip, is that a word? No, my only qualm with Bede is that because I hate him so much, why didn't we get the chance to name him? Oh, my grandson. What was his name again?
You know immediately
Douchebag.
when
Same
it's
with
like you get the potential to name this character. It's like, well, he's gonna get a really awful bad name, isn't
Same
it?
with like Hop.
Oh,
Like,
Hop.
You can't,
Okay,
you
right.
can't give him a name either.
Hop means well, and Hop is having a bit of a character kind of progression where he's obviously his big brother is this big sponsored influencer, and he just wants to live up to his big brother's name, who is of course the champion of Galarian land. And I don't like him. I wish I liked him.
Like I said, I've reached the point where now he's starting to be a bit shaken, because obviously up to this point he's been sure he's going to kick some ass, and I think Bede hands his ass to him at some point in like off screen, as it were, and he's starting to be a bit more shaky, and it's interesting to see him go that route, like where I am right now. But he's just, at the moment for me, he seems a bit unstable about where he is, and he's questioning what he's doing. But the thing I love about Hop is he's an absolute pillock. He's an idiot.
Isn't he just all of us though? Really?
Yeah.
I have a real connection with him. The idea of having a rival that gets beaten by you so many times, they're like, are you
Am I
better?
bad? It literally straight away. It's like, okay, it's like I
You know type advantages.
Oh, but yeah, it's like, okay, so I pick Skull Bunny as my starter. And it's like, I've taken Grookey. And it's like, cool, I'm going to
Okay.
set the thing on fire. And he goes, wow, you've learned type advantages. Or you haven't, Hop. That's what happened here.
God bless him.
Bless
God
him.
bless him every step of the way. Yeah, but the one thing I find interesting is that the characters are amazing, but the only thing I will say is the plot. I always feel like it's getting ready to go into something, and then it never quite does.
I mean, the plot is just always the same, isn't it?
I say it's Pokemon.
Go off.
Yeah.
You're about 10 years old. Go off and leave home, leave your mob, become a Pokemon master.
Fight possibly like an evil organization. Fight the mafia. It's fine. You're 10.
Actually, in terms of like a comparison to the standard Pokemon lore, I do like the fact that Team Yell are just a bunch of fans and not like some like I said with Ruby, it was like Team Magma. Like, we're going to destroy this mountain and do stuff. I don't know what they were planning to do. And then these guys are just like, we're annoying. And they're, what's her name?
Mari. Is it Marnie?
Marnie?
It's
Marnie, yeah.
Yeah.
Marnie.
She's like, oh, for goodness sake, you lot, go
That
away.
is
I really like that idea that they're just, but then it's also like every time I walk into a new city and it's like, oh, look, here's the 2 routes out. Oh, look, there's Team Yell in the way.
It's a good way of sort of gating progression, which Pokemon always used to do with like HMs. HMs, of course, being completely replaced now by your bike and your trusty Corviknight that picks you up wherever you want to go.
Your flying taxi.
Things like that, the quality of life improvements for this game are spectacular. How much did you freak out when you saw you could change your Pokemon from the box like wherever you want? I don't like it.
I was like, you trust me with that? It's like the camping mechanic. I'm like, I can heal. I'm not just going to kill them almost every route. I can heal these Pokemon.
It is a very hand-holding game. Like, one of the things that I wanted from Let's Go to come over, because again, it's something that always switched me off from going back to like OG Pokemon, is, as much as this is going to sound very controversial to Pokemon fans, is the grind. Like, grinding up individual Pokemon, for me, is the thing that always makes me think, oh, I'm going to do this again. The fact that you can still level things up in parties, I think is fair. Like, unlike Let's Go, where you could just catch stuff and it would level them, like, you still obviously have to battle in Sword and Shield, but it still levels up your entire party. But it did mean I could get a Gyarados very, very easily by just leaving a Magikarp in my bottom slot and leaving him there.
Yeah. The only thing with that is XP all and XP share have always been a thing, but they've always been optional.
The thing that you can get.
Yeah.
The fact, again, the fact you can't turn that off. Same with the box stuff. Like, I think the box, being able to access the box and swap stuff around,
so handy,
it's very strange. If you're able to see, if it was a means of being able to see into your boxes wherever you are, so you know if like, oh, have I caught this, or what are the stats on this, etc. Fair enough, but actually being able to transfer it, I thought should always be relegated to a Pokemon Center. But
it is a weird, because the one thing I liked more is that some of the battles, especially later on, feel a lot more difficult because although the new Pokemon have types where it's specifically like, I thought you were safe with an electric Pokemon. Well, you're not. But yeah, I think they've tried to exchange that by being like, well, you can heal after every fight, and it's like, then I'll literally never die. But okay, I'm fine with that. So I do wonder if like maybe later they'll make like a committed sort of hard mode.
Yeah.
Where it's the old school stuff.
We were talking about this. I'm a lover of really like proper like masochistic game design. I would love a proper difficult Pokemon because like, as much as we love it, this game is not difficult. No. It's not even the slightest bit difficult. The only bit of difficulty I ever saw was when Mr. Rich Hudson was having some trouble fighting a rock Pokemon with an electric Pokemon and didn't realize why he was getting his butt kicked over and over again. The Dreadnought, you were like, why isn't my Yamper working?
Oh, yeah.
It's a rock Pokemon, Rich.
Oh, shut up.
We've been there. We've all been there.
I think my water Pokemon had all been killed off at this point, so I was just going to try and take it down with brute force.
You don't know type advantages?
Obviously, call me Hop.
No. But like I say, the game isn't difficult. I really would. Obviously, competitive scenes are difficult, and getting truly, really good at online battling is...
God, it's the one thing I would never want to do is go online because I just get my ass handed to me. I just can't be doing with that feeling of, I like this game, now I don't like this game because I put myself in this position.
I mean, you've just described me in Super Smash Brothers, really.
Okay.
Yeah, as soon as you go online, it turns out I don't like this game. But no, like as far as it being really difficult, I think that is something they could try for the future, is have like a hard mode. It's never something they've ever tried, difficulty modes in Pokemon. Something where, like, for example, like the Nuzlocke rule, which obviously is a fan-made challenge, but something like that you could set up in place where your Pokemon has a set number of times it can faint before it dies.
Well, it's interesting because they did, I think it was in Emerald, they've had games where you could turn off the ability to switch out, like where it wouldn't tell you what
set
Pokemon
mode,
came next. And I thought that was interesting because, like, yeah, the way it's easiest is you're like, sending out a water Pokemon, are you? That's a shame.
I mean, we had this the first time Rach and I battled, our first ever battle.
That is because
it was literally, it was like, Rach sends out a Sobble, Rich sends out Yamper,
well,
Rach takes back Sobble.
That's it. I've lost electricity at the start of the game when you've got a Wooloo, and how good is Wooloo, by the way? I've gone however long into this podcast without mentioning Wooloo. What the hell? Not even once.
Big fluffy roly boy.
Gave all my love to Silly Cobra.
But I think with how Game Freak are pushing the boat out with, or pushing the boundaries with their most recent games. Obviously, you said Sun and Moon changed a lot, and Sword and Shield has kind of gone back, but also changed bits and bobs and brought stuff from Let's Go, and even Pokemon Go. Like the kind of the raid battles are similar to like taking on a gym, and et cetera, et cetera. Like I feel like especially with like the modern delivery system of games with like digital downloads and stuff, like it's easy for them to just kind of go, here you go, here's this mode. Like we're still waiting on like a new game plus for Outer Worlds, for example, which we can just go, yep, here you go, there you go, done.
It's not something I see them like sort of hard mode, difficulty mode, new game plus. I don't see them adding that to this iteration, but I think it would be really cool, you know, if they did in the future. Same with the MMO kind of style of thing. Do you think? Sorry to shout over you there, my dude. Because I think this is what you're going to say. Do you think it's going to get DLC? It's not what you were going to say.
Well, it's similar to that. I was thinking, would they have done like a third game, kind of like how they did Emerald after, or Platinum? Was it Crystal, Emerald, Platinum?
Black. There was Black 2 and White 2, but they were useless.
They were still like
weird,
But like if they did, I always, like I said, look at it, like I said, Gen 3. So like Ruby Sapphire, and then they eventually did Emerald. Would they do like Sword Shield? And I think the one that got Spear's good. One that got printed in a newspaper
Helmet.
in Europe was Gun.
Gun. Yeah.
Somebody made a fan art that said Pokemon Gun, and then put it in a newspaper. But like, if they did something like that, would they do that and then go, okay, here you go? Like, it's the same way that you can sort of get Emerald and continue, or like replay Gen 3. Would they do that with Pokemon Sword and Shield and do a third variant, which then gives you New Game Plus / hard mode / hardcore, whatever?
I mean, I wouldn't say no. Something they did with Breath of the Wild was they did add a hard mode and harder challenges to it, as well as some quality of life improvements, but as DLC. So I think it is something they could do as DLC.
It's not exactly unknown even on Nintendo's part, even giving Mario Kart 8 200cc mode as a DLC. Like, they've added full modes in as a DLC. So they could do it, as you said, with Breath of the Wild. I think it would be something that maybe the hardcore Pokemon fans that have been whinging all the way up to the release would want, is a mode to turn it back to like an OG style Pokemon game. I feel like they would make a killing if they did that, so it kind of makes sense for them to do it.
That's actually my biggest fear, is that slowly it's becoming sort of money strategies, because I do think the one thing that was very fair when people complained about there only being so many Pokemon is they were like, I'm paying for the Pokebank to put these Pokemon in the new games.
That's the thing. Yeah. No, like my issue as well was like, we obviously had Pokebank on the 3DS. We've got nothing like that on the Switch, and there's no way for me to get my chocolate Alolan Raichu that I spent 10,375 trades getting. There's no way for me to get that onto Sword and Shield.
I thought you can with the Pokeball.
With the Pokeball? I mean, I'll try
the
it.
Pokeball controller can take Pokemon from Sword and Shield, because they did say you can't play it with the Pokemon controller, but you can put the Pokemon into it. So whether you can transfer between them, I don't know.
Yeah,
I'll try.
But that might be worth a look.
It's a thing where I'm like, if they make DLC and they make another Pokebank for this and they do a bunch of other stuff, at what point does like even the people who've enjoyed the game, they sort of begin to build that frustration where it's like, well, what are we doing here? Like, what's the end game? Is it just to like, here's a Pikachu, pay me £5,000?
I mean, whoa, that escalated really quickly. So what are you saying? Are you saying you kind of like that it's sort of like a self-contained kind of thing?
I've always liked with Pokemon, like, there's a bit afterwards, they give you the obligatory, like, here's the battle tower, here's like some legendaries.
Yeah.
Like, you're done now. Go
End
home.
game.
Yeah. An end game of Pokemon instead of like, here's the Pokemon DLC. You want some extra starters?
I gotcha. Yeah. There has to be a point where you've kind of like caught them all and you can go and play Outer Worlds and you can go and play Death Stranding and not feel guilty. Because yeah, with Pokemon, like I just know as soon as I'm done with Shield, I'm going to be playing through Sword and doing it again. It's just what we do. It's good to always have something on the go to collect. But yeah, no, I see what you're saying with DLC. I just thought, just brainstorming.
Yeah, it'd be interesting. It just could also be catastrophic because it's so unusual. But that might be me being a real poker depression there. It's unclear.
No, that's cool. Yeah. The thing is with games and with sequels and with fandoms these days is a lot of people will see something new or different and they'll just be like, oh no. So I'm just sort of like seeing like, how can we take all the positives from what Sword and Shield have done and then take it going forward? The game's been out a week and I'm already thinking about the next one. I don't know. But yeah, back to the actual game itself, because I meant to talk about this at the very, very start of the podcast, so we may as well talk about this at the end of the podcast. Who's your least favorite Pokemon? Because I would love to just sit here and tell you all about my extreme utter disdain for Stunfisk, because it is just the worst Pokemon ever, and they gave it a flipping Galarian form, and it is a bear trap.
Oh, that one. Yeah, I remember coming across that. It's like, there's a tiny Pokemon on the floor. Oh, it's got my leg. Oh, it's what the hell is that? And then Rach is like, what? Why is that here?
So the coolest thing, like one thing that I do really, really love about Sword and Shield is the environmental design. The different environments are really cool. Cave 1 and Cave 2 took my heart, especially Cave 2 when I first realized, oh, that little Pokeball on the floor is in fact Mimic, and it's a Pokemon that attacks you. This is something obviously we've seen with like Voltorbs, and I can't actually think of another Pokemon that does it, but Voltorb does it.
The little mushroom?
Yes.
Yeah.
The mushroom in Sun and Moon. Yes. No, fantastic. I just thought that was really, really cool. And then, of course, things like the wild area and just like seeing a big giant Pokemon in the distance and thinking,
First thing I
can
did
take you.
as soon as I walked into the wild areas, an Onyx spawned, and I was like, cool, let's go fight the Onyx. It was like, this is a rather strong looking Onyx. I'm like a level 5 whatever versus this level 36 Onyx. It's like, oh, good. And you can't get away either. Oh, good.
I mean, in a way, that is our hard mode.
There's such a satisfaction knowing that every single person who played Sword and Shield had the moment where they were like, oh, cool, I'll go get that. It's level 50. I'm level 5.
Whoops.
I'll go then. I'll be going.
The one thing with that is, though, like, that is really cool. Like I said, that's our hard mode.
Yeah, I think it might
that's an
be.
experience, but they don't even let you catch it.
If you take it down, though, you get a crap load of XP.
Yeah.
If you manage to take it down. Like, whoa.
There's always that tiny, tiny chance when you first see a Pokemon, if you throw a quick ball at it, that you might actually like catch it. So I guess they didn't want everyone to have level 50s right out of the door, I suppose. But yeah, closing thoughts about Sword and Shield, like little takeaways. I mean, for me, it's all the little quality of life improvements for sure. It's things like being able to call a taxi wherever I want. Things like having the box inside my Pokemon thing. Oh, heck, and League cards. I didn't even mention League cards.
Oh, that's great. I love the customization of
Sweet
that.
fashion.
Yeah, all the little things.
Oh yeah, every time I go to a new place, like quick, go straight to the shop. What can I buy? Can I make my man look very nice?
Mine has blue hair.
Oh.
Don't need potions for my Pokemon. Just gonna spend all my money on a new hat. That's
I mean,
fine.
who buys potions?
Yeah,
Do you
really?
buy potions? Nah.
Well, that's because I don't have any money because I bought 3 pairs of shoes.
3 pairs of shoes.
Don't need them. Want them.
For me, because like I said, I've not been somebody that's been keeping it with Pokemon since 2003. Well, bits and bobs. It's blended what I really love from Let's Go and what I am nostalgic for with Ruby and going and like Fire Red and stuff like that. Like it's blended them both together perfectly. So I am having this lovely mix of nostalgia and stuff that I've come to love. And I don't think I'd have got Sword and Shield if I hadn't played Let's Go. I think I'd be completely out of the loop on Pokemon if I hadn't.
I would have convinced you to get it.
Probably. See everybody playing it over the weekend, like over launch, it was ridiculous. I probably would have bought it anyway. But like I'm just having a great time with it. It does take me back. It probably has got me back into the series. I know I'm not as diehard of a fan as people that can turn around and go, like every time a new Pokemon turned up, I'd be like, oh my god, Rach, look at this thing. And you're like, yeah, that's from this. I'm like, oh, this is my first time seeing it. But like I'm loving it. I'm really enjoying it.
Oh no, that's brilliant. So you definitely recommend it to people who are like looking for a way back into Pokemon.
Yes, if you're I think it's still a good place to start if you are new to the series because it still puts you through all of the basics. Which even though I'm sat there going, "Come on, let's get through this. I know how to catch a Pokemon." Like get through all of that. But if you're like me, that's been off from Pokemon for like 13, 14 years, it's a great place to jump back in.
Mm-hmm. They give you a lot of options. Like for example, when you first go into Pokemon Center, like, do you know what goes on here? And you have the option to say, "I got this.
Yeah.
I've done this before."
Be gone. I know the Pokemon.
Yourself?
So obviously it's like a sort of dyed-in-the-wall hardcore dork about it. I was very apprehensive going into it, but I think most of the changes are stuff done right, and I think the things that people have complained about and are concerned about are things that clearly will be worked on in the future because this was, I would say, an experimentation game.
Sure.
But yeah, everything it does right, it absolutely knocks out of the park. I got to have cool cats. I got to have weird times.
Viking
I'm
cats.
not going to spoil the ending, but like, there's, wild. Gets real wild real fast.
Wild areas. And
I see what you did there.
stuff.
It reminds me of Dragon Quest Monsters. Have you ever played that in like the best possible way? So yeah, I think a step in the right direction.
Oh, that's so wholesome. I love it. I'm sitting here thinking like, what are my negatives about this game? And I literally have no negatives, but y'all know me and I love everything. I honestly can't think of anything I don't like about it other than the online functionality being a little bit not great. Doesn't always connect. Stamps are silly. Get rid of stamps. Just let me voice chat with my friends.
I've got a friends list on the Switch. Just let me connect straight to them, please.
I know, exactly. Sort of like the way that PlayStation does it.
I mean, this is Nintendo. They've never done that sort of thing. So
it's true.
And they'll remain to be difficult with it until we all die.
Wow,
Fun.
okay. Yes.
Nice ending.
A big ending there.
So until we all die, ladies and gentlemen, this has been the WhatCulture Gaming Podcast. Let us know what you think of Pokemon Sword and Shield. Which version did you get? What starter did you pick? We didn't even ask. The room, Sobble.
Team Scorbunny.
Got the other one. Grookey.
Oh, well, there you go. Right. Protect Sobble at all costs. Guys, you've been awesome. Thank you so much for listening. My name has been Rach, and I have been joined by Rich.
Thank you very much for listening. Go give Yamper all the belly rubs. Thank you.
And Zoe.
Catch a good Pokemon.
Continue being great Pokemon trainers, and we will see you next time.
Bye.
Bye.